I spill my drink.
The Commodore Amiga 500 now comes with the exciting Batman package, all class of the 90s.
But I'll survive.
Weetabix. Once we've started you, there's no stopping you.
You can't be the old one too. Oh, beautifully sliced. He's keen. Just look at him getting stuck in.
The year is 2000 and Deus Ex has just been unleashed upon the world. It gained positive reviews from most outlets at the time, but as we continue and approach the 21st century, nobody seems to be talking about this game. Maybe it was only good at the time and people had rose-colored glasses, nostalgic for a time when they were young. I have no idea. That's why I kind of want to look at it or, review it. Going into this game, I had my doubts. I was unsure about the acclaim this game had. I knew of Deus Ex, but nobody talked about it, at least not to my knowledge. The only time I remember anything about Deus Ex was on the Xbox 360 with Human Revolution, and to be honest, I enjoyed it, but that was maybe 9 years ago and I never touched it ever again. But I wanted to play it again so I could know if I really enjoyed it or it was just a nostalgia. As I was about to buy the game, I noticed that there was more than 2 Deus Ex games on Steam. Instead, there were 4 of them. Unaware of the fact, I decided to pick up all of them, and with that, the first one on the list, the original Deus Ex. Something I've definitely heard of, but didn't know anything about. So what do I think? Well, it's a game. It's not very good. Alright, I'm sorry, I lied. It's wonderful. It's so good. Although there were a few issues that I needed to solve first before I could even play the game, because the game does not run well on modern systems. When I launched the game originally, it was in a 6:9 aspect ratio and the FPS around 30, I believe, with the game not even in full screen and with mouse acceleration. I looked into what could be done, and through a forum I learned that there was a cal mod where it fixes that stuff but keeps the game in its original self without ruining or adding anything, keeping it vanilla to be exact. So I followed it and the game ran smoothly. After that, there were still a few issues. So the mod tells you to use Windows 10 as the engine, but when I tried to run that, I'm getting a lot of frame drops. So I thought that was to do with the FPS counter. I kept changing it and nothing was working. So then I decided to change the engine to OpenGL, and for me, thankfully, that solved the issues I was having. There were minor issues with OpenGL with minor characters losing some textures, but nothing to worry about. But another major issue arose. So within the engine of when starting up the game, you have an FPS counter. I set it to the highest my monitor and computer can produce, and it was working, but the game kept crashing. Every time I would get into the inventory, it would crash or it would freeze for about 15 seconds every single time. And that was really ruining my experience and I couldn't take it anymore. So I looked into a solution and found that you have to set the FPS to 0. Don't give the FPS counter anything. Don't give it a locked frame rate. Keep it unlocked, because for some reason the engine doesn't really run well and I'm not too sure why. In any case, after fixing it, the game was working wonderfully. So quick recap: when purchasing the game, download the cal mod, extract it, whatever, just follow the guide. If when playing the game and it's not running well, check the other engines. For myself, OpenGL was perfect. Also within that same screen, change the FPS to 0, but check with your game first. That's it. Once you're set, I honestly think you might enjoy this game. Okay, now before I get into the game, the history of its development slightly. Warren Spector, the creator of this game and one of gaming's most influential game developer, was laid off from Looking Glass Technologies. Searching for more work, he went to EA with his proposal for his next big budget game, described as underworld style first person action in a real world setting with big budget non-stop action. Joe Romero caught wind and called Warren to join his team, with a promise of a lifetime chance to create his own game with no restrictions. Warren took the offer and started working on Deus Ex. Warren actually began to plan the game in 1993 and official pre-production started around 1997, with the game actually releasing 22nd June 2000. If you want to know the full story, then the link is below. Before I even go on and talk about the synopsis and gameplay, please buy this game. Do try and update it before you do, but honestly, knowing nothing and experiencing the game for myself the first time was one of the best experiences I've ever had. And with that, if you haven't left, well, the story synopsis. The year is 2052 and a pandemic has spread across the world. A virus by the name of the Great Death has ravaged countries and nations. There is no cure, but a systemic vaccine named Ambrosia. Unfortunately, it is in critically short supply, and only those who deem fit to the vital of the social order are the ones who are to receive it. With no hope for the common people, the world has fallen into chaos and is slowly spiraling out of control, with riots spreading, terrorist organizations forming, and conspiracy theories beginning to run amok. Who is right? What is real? What is going on? You are JC Denton, an agent for UNATCO. You are one of the top augmented agents on ahead to stop the world from collapse. Find a cure and save the world, agent. If you're still not convinced, then I recommend watching this next part, but if you are, please skip it. Deus Ex as a story is very well written with many plot threads all over the place, but as you continue, each one is slowly being threaded together, so while you may not understand everything at first, things will start to make sense. I don't want to say too much because I feel like if you go in knowing something, you're already going to be connecting the dots. But if you know nothing, then it's great. But if you feel like you would like to know a little bit more, well, then here you go. Deus Ex has a way on you, where it has many intricate designs placed throughout the story. You again won't understand and you will be confused as to what is going on. But as you continue to play, you will see how the threads link together and how the game has many interesting characters, locations, and worldly lore that you get to explore. The game takes real life conspiracy theories and incorporates them in a way that would seem possible in this time frame. Since Deus Ex is set in a dystopian world, anything could be real while others not so much. But many of the theories and the virus themselves reflect the world of today. So with that out of the way, I suppose I should delve into characters, but I won't talk about anyone too much. I'll talk about the very few that you get to know so I don't delve into spoilers. As JC Denton, you are a top of the line augmented agent. You are one of two people in UNATCO who possesses augments. JC as a character looks the part of a dystopian cyberpunk world. I like it, it works and he pulls it off really well. Really, the idea for his costume comes from Blade, and learning about the design choice, it becomes perfectly obvious, but goddamn does it work. There's even a cutscene later in the game whereby two characters are commenting on your costume, and it makes the world feel more alive because they're talking about your outfit and how the people of this world feel about your attire.
My new partner, JC Denton. Don't tell me you're going to wear those sunglasses during a night operation.
My vision is augmented.
Better to look good than to have the distractions of another agent who needs backup.
Forgive my interruption. I just wanted to say that I look forward to working with you, Agent Navarra. Could you tell me how to find Jaime's office?
I do not expect you to perform as well as Agent Herman, but the mission will require us to do more than frighten the NSF with our baggy coats that make us look bigger than we really are.
I am prepared to perform my duties.
For instance, not to wipe out the enemy and then leave agents still captured in a locked cell.
No problem.
JC as a character is odd. In a way, he has his own personality and character where I could get into it. But I feel like he is what you make him out to be. And that's the way the game wants you to feel about him. In dialogue, you have choices to make him be the kind of person you want, and that comes back around with the gameplay. JC to me is a very cold and calculated person, but also shares the weight of humanity on his shoulders. He understands what he is and wants to keep the world in a safe place, even if that means making tough choices. He knows what has to be done and is a very cautious person, always looking for the best outcome. The next is your brother Paul Denton. He is one of the reasons why JC got into UNATCO and is the one who guides you along the way. Like you, he too is augmented. The next is Alex. He's your info dealer. He guides you along missions and can see and hear what is going on. He mainly acts as your guide. Then you have Jamie, or as the game calls him, Jaime. He's a resident doctor for UNATCO and friends with JC before he joined. And with that, the final character I should talk about is Mandalay. He's just your boss and a leader of UNATCO, that's it. Normally I would delve deeper with the characters, but with this game it's something special and rather not. In any case, gameplay. The gameplay for Deus Ex is one revelation that in my opinion still hasn't been fully recaptured. So what do I mean? Well, starting with level design and choice. Deus Ex is an FPS RPG whereby you have choice in almost every circumstance, and to show that off I'll start with the levels. They're big and open, but in the sense that each one feels like a small subsection of a city with so much in it. Within each area you visit, there are characters and dialogue with plot that interconnects with the main plot, but also individuals who live in that world, characters that want nothing to do with you, characters who live their own life. One of the few things this game does is have the city be itself. Let it be a real city. Let there be people around you who you can speak to, who provide you with information. Let them be part of the interlude of the ins and outs. Let them act like they know what is happening. Let them not care. Everyone you meet in this game is appropriate of where you are. Just walking around and listening to random conversations happening is always a pleasure.
Are you sure you pressed the right button?
I do not make mistakes of that kind.
Your hand might have slipped.
No, I wanted orange. It gave me lemon lime.
The machine would not make a mistake.
It's the maintenance man. He knows I like orange.
So you think the staff has some kind of plot?
Yes, they do that on purpose.
I like to know what the people of this universe think about the plague outbreak. I like to know the politics of this world and the way how it's affecting people all over. And going back to levels being big, usually this would result in levels dragging out. But with this game, they give you so many options, and those options is what makes the game so much fun. In the first level, I was at UNATCO's headquarters. I stole some chocolate, and when I reached Liberty Island, a little boy is running around. I decided to speak to him and he says he's hungry. Now, I could try and force him to give me the information, but I assumed he would run away. But because I had the chocolate on me, I gave it to him, and he provided me with information about a secret entrance behind the vending machine. And that to me is so cool! But that's not even the coolest aspect of the game. While before I described a conversation, this game does something special. Deus Ex records your actions and they can alter the story in many slight ways. And that's something that hasn't been recaptured from any game. Almost all other RPGs and games have the conversation be the method of the way you alter the story. But in Deus Ex, if there's something that you might have done during gameplay, it might be mentioned later on. Some are big, others are small. As an example, I'll show one that has nothing to do with the plot.
How unprofessional.
The bonus for rescuing Agent Herman goes to one of the troopers, though. I'm sure you understand.
Thank you, sir.
By the way, Denton, stay out of the ladies' restroom. That kind of activity embarrasses the agency more than it does you.
It's so funny and shocking that this game does stuff like that. And there are so many more moments like that. Another reason why I love the way the level design was done is how to give you the option of choice. There was a mission where I had to go into the underground to save some hostages from bad guys. The obvious way was by taking the stairs, but they were booby-trapped. If any movement was sensed, the explosives would kill the hostages. The game gives you an EMP device to shut it down, so you can still take that option, but there's another way. Spend 2 minutes looking around the surface and you will find another entrance, this time from a nearby grate, whereby you could infiltrate it and sneak around, and you'll end up at the end of the underground without anyone knowing. So you can take out the bad guys silently. And there are so many more moments like that, whereby the game will tell you one way but instead there are 3 ways to go around, and it's super cool. The game expects you at this point or at some point to understand, to never believe what it says. Just because the game says one way, there are always 2 or 3. And because you're an augmented agent, this again means more player choice. You get to choose what augments you want, and the augments you choose can change the way you play dramatically. Each component of JC's limbs can be augmented, but you have to find the augmented canister first. But when you pick one up, you have 1 or 2 choices, and each choice can dramatically change the way you play. Unfortunately, you can't change your augments, so once you choose, it's final. There is a mod that allows you to change them, and I wish that was part of the vanilla game due to the fact that you can find a lot of the same augments in various levels. So while you might have something for your arms, you won't have the same option to change it later on, even if you find a duplicate. It's a little annoying, but I wish it was in a main vanilla game. But if there's an augment you really like, then you can enhance them, escalating the way you go through the levels. And continuing with player choice, as you start the game, you are shown a skill menu. Like a skill tree, it will help you as you play the game. But here, you don't need to own any of the skills because you already possess the skills. Instead, the skill menu should be seen more as a training menu. JC can do everything that is shown on the screen, but the only issue is he's pretty bare bones with all the skills. You are able to upgrade any of them to your choosing at least 3 times, but each time you upgrade the requirement goes higher. Each skill requires a different amount of skill points, so it's best to choose wisely how you're going to go about it. As you play the game, it will give you points as you finish each level, but during levels, if you complete side missions and do certain requirements like exploring a lot, it will give you more. With each upgrade, it helps shape the type of gameplay experience you will have and how you will complete levels. Each one allows you to be you, and each skill should be valued on how you end up using them. They can and will open up different opportunities player to player. However, with that being said, some of the skills are completely bonkers and make no sense when upgrading. The only skill I ever fully upgraded to master was lockpicking. While I did upgrade electronics and computers to advanced, the second upgrade path, I didn't have enough to test them like I did for lockpicking. But honestly, the lockpicking is pointless. And so are a few others, but let me explain. So when you approach something that can be lockpicked, like a door, it will show the number of the lockpicks needed and a strength meter to indicate how close the door is to being opened. So a door might say 4 lockpicks and 50 strength, but with no lockpicking skill, you will use all 4 lockpicks with the strength going down 35, 25, 10, 0. But if you upgrade it to trained, the first upgrade path, then it will still take 4 lockpicks, but the number of the strength will go down to 35, 25, 0. Then if you upgrade it once again, it will become advanced. This time the door will take 3 lockpicks and the strength 25, 10, 0. And finally, when you upgrade it one last time, this time to master, the lockpicking will still take 3 lockpicks, 25, 0. It's insane. Did I miss something that explains a lockpicking to be this way? If so, I have no idea. I only chose lockpicking because I enjoy being stealthy. Surely, Master should have just unlocked everything with 1 lockpick, but that's not the case. I do think I missed something as it is my fault, but I do find it strange how the game doesn't outright tell you what's going to happen. Or if they did, then I'm kind of an idiot. But if I missed it, then I can only imagine the amount of other people that missed it. In any case, adding to the player choice topic comes the way you want to play. If you want nothing but lethal weapons, go right ahead. Or if you want to play the game non-lethally, it's up to you. And that's another aspect I really love about this game. Not only does it allow you to play the game in the way you want, it provides me as a player with the tools to do such a thing. And I never have to follow one player style over the other. Everything in this game is fun. While you can't carry everything and there's no real item weight limitation, what there is to counter that is the inventory screen, where certain items will take up slots. So while you can't pick up everything, you can pick up anything. You will have to spend time figuring out what you want, and this to me makes for smart play. You can't just pick up everything and carry around with a fake inventory screen with carry weight, like Fallout, Witcher, Skyrim and all those other games. Instead, this is very much like an early version of Resident Evil 4's briefcase system, and I really enjoy that. It makes me want to explore everything. It makes me want to think about how I'm going to approach the next level. It makes me just think. Everything is in your power. You control how you want to do the missions. This is also added to the fact to what skills you have. For me, I love the computer skill because I can hack into a computer terminal and then have the turrets attack the enemies, so I don't have to waste a single bullet. Knowing what skills and gadgets you have really do open up so many new possibilities when you wouldn't think otherwise. But there's something I have to admit, that stealth unfortunately sucks. At the beginning of my playthrough, I was doing stealth, but eventually I turned into a murderer, feeding into my bloodlust. And it's not because I wanted to, it's because I had to. Okay, it's because I wanted to. But hold on, let me explain. With every other game, you can hide in the shadows and waltz past enemies as long as you're being quiet. But in this game, it doesn't matter. Even though I'm in the shadows and not moving, the enemy somehow can see me. They know what to find me, regardless of the position I'm in. And as long as I can see them, they will be able to see me, even though it should be impossible. For example, there were times where I'm behind boxes, I'm watching the AI through a tiny gap so I might be able to see where they move, but somehow they managed to see me from that tiny gap. When you strive to the side to see what's around the corner, the AI might spot you and ring the alarm, alerting everyone of your position. And for the most part, it's hard to get the AI to stop searching for you once they begin, as they will tend to find you no matter what, unless they get bored, which is also quite frequent. Talking about AI unpredictability, sometimes they can hear a pin drop from 10 miles away, even though all you did was take one step. Other times, they have moss covering their ears, ignoring the fact a firefight has just gone down 5 centimeters away. The stealth is awful, as well as the AI. And to prove my point, you can step apart of a section and see how unpredictable they truly are. In addition to that, I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to take them out silently. So not only is stealth bad just from an exploration standpoint, but also taking out enemies non-lethally with the only weapons that are non-lethal, the crossbow and the baton. The crossbow sucks because it doesn't act like a normal crossbow. In every other game, a headshot will instantly down an enemy. But here, when shot, it takes 20 seconds for enemies to drop unconscious, and in that time, they either run away, then drop unconscious, or they shoot towards you, so if you're hidden, they give away your location, even though you're far away and again hidden. It doesn't matter, the enemy will swarm you. The crossbow sucks and took too much time to waste on. That's kinda why I threw it away in the first place, it was just too much of a headache. But whereas the crossbow sucks, the baton is dumb. It's very random and specific, but let me explain. So, you would think that if you went behind someone and hit them with a baton at the back of their head, it would cause them to fall over unconscious. Well, it happens sometimes, but very rarely. And I kept doing that. I kept hitting enemies at the back of their head over and over and over again, but they would just turn around and shoot me. So I just got frustrated from the bullshit. I looked up what you're supposed to do, and apparently you hit them at the back of the neck, so I do that, and it's still garbage. They don't go down, instead it's all randomized, and how I know this is by saving the game right before I strike. And by doing this, I noticed that sometimes the enemies would get knocked out with one strike, so the melee is random for non-lethal attacks. I find it so dumb. Not only is this the harder way to play, they're punishing you for playing this way. I know you can stun them before you hit them, but again, it's just random. Upgrading the melee in this case is also pointless, as you could just save and try again because it's random, although you might be stuck for a while, so consider it. But throughout my gameplay of non-lethally, I eventually got bored and decided to kill with whatever I had. I fed into my bloodlust, and to be honest, the game became so much more fun this way. I stopped caring about being non-lethal and finally decided to have fun. The game gave me a lot of murder weapons to choose from. What did I want? The pulse rifle, the rocket launcher, or maybe the flamethrower? After much deliberation, I chose the flamethrower. I shoot flames, I watch enemies die, fling their arms around screaming. It's a bit yikes, but very entertaining. In all seriousness, you never feel like you're too overpowered, and it's due to the fact how the inventory system has been crafted. This is so you're never in the position of carrying too many powerful weapons at once. You're limited by what you can carry, and in doing so, you have to think about what you want to do in the long term. And overall, the enemies will never feel cheap or overpowered because of the various enemies there are. However, if you end up playing like a madman all the time, you will end up dying a lot because the enemies do gang up on you. So it is worthwhile being stealthy here and there. And just because you might choose an augment for taking down humans, that in turn might not work out for electronics. And in addition to the upgrading, If there are any weapons you really like, you can also upgrade them to become even better. When I was first playing, I was primarily using the pistol, but it kinda sucked. You'll find weapon augmentations like lasers, scopes, better accuracy, more capacity, and they can all be used on most of all the guns, and through a few upgrades, it became so much better. And I almost forgot, as you can see in the top left corner, you'll see a health bar, or to be more specific, health bars. In Deus Ex, you have several health bars for each limb, and to me that is so cool. So even though you might lose a leg or an arm, it doesn't matter, you're not dead. But instead, you get to carry on just without those limbs, up until you heal them up. And what's really cool is that they affect gameplay, so losing both arms doesn't mean you won't be able to shoot, but instead you won't be able to aim properly. Your aim will be shaky, bullets won't go straight, but it's not cheap, for you can still take people out. However, when you lose your legs, you can't run or even walk. You are forever crouching, and that sucks for me. My legs kept getting destroyed, and I felt like that fish in SpongeBob. One thing I wish they would have fixed though, and or changed, was how even though you have 45% life, let's say, when you get to the end of the level, it remains 45% in the next level. It kinda sucks. I wish it would fully restore you to 100%. In the end, with all said and done, I think I encaptured everything I wanted to say about the gameplay. And I'm gonna have to give it an easy 8 out of 10. No competition. If the stealth was done better, then I feel like this will be a 10 out of 10. But because stealth has so many problems, I really can't, but I want to. I want to give this game a 10, but the stealth is just so bad. The AI is horrendous. It's just like, how? That's all. Anyways, we're not done. We got world design and music, baby. I've already talked about how the level design is amazing and how each level provides you with options of exploration and how to get around, but what Deus Ex does very well in addition to that is the way they tell you about the world. As you go through the game, you will encounter newspapers, emails, books, and a bunch more stuff, but this is a way for the game to let you know what is happening all over the world and how politics are forming and how the world is changing. I really like the fact that the game doesn't make it a point to explain these types of details, but instead allows you to learn about them if you wish. From a level design point, I enjoyed it. Everything makes coherent sense. There are times where the level might seem barren with nothing in it, but instead there are 10 different things you can do. And each one can progress the story in a way. Each one will shape the type of decisions you as JC will have. There was one level where you're in a guy's house, and from the outset it seemed like you can only do 2 things. But if you were to explore a bit, you will find a hidden door behind a window. You can find an access code to another hidden area. There's so many cool and hidden aspects that can stretch out the game without it feeling like filler. Everything feels so streamlined. But you know, it's up to you how you want to go about it. And when talking about the voice acting, this game is very 50-50. On one hand, some areas you go to, the voice acting is amazing. The main cast, they take the world and their characters very seriously, and this makes the game very immersive. However, then there are times where the voice acting is so bad and almost take you out, and the obvious for that is Hong Kong. In the game, almost everyone here is bad.
She said no.
Impossible.
She said she has made other arrangements.
The red arrow?
She was very rude.
You know what to do.
Yes, sir.
Don't waste any time.
But I can't help but find it so amusing. It's so charming. I love it. Talking about voice acting, one of my issues with JC originally was that he sounds like a wet blanket. But his personality is very much one of my own, so I can see why they went with his voice actor. However, after a while, I really did enjoy his voice. It grew on me, and I can't imagine anybody else doing JC other than J. Anthony Frankie. He does such a good job. As for the music, it's very fitting for the game and none of it sounds bad. It makes you feel like you're doing something important. It has that 90s retroscope for what they thought the future would turn out to be in this dark dystopian future, where nanotech is the norm. It has the feeling of conspiracy theories finally being undiscovered, uncovering the truth. Most of the tracks have this feeling of a dark, sinister tone, and it really works for the game's atmosphere and theming. Unless you're in Hong Kong, where the track is poppin'! Dude, I could dance to that track, it's so hype! But for some reason, whenever the main theme starts playing, I always get memories of the X-Men cartoon. I don't know why, I think the riff is very much like it. In any case, now we're almost at the end. Quickly going back to the story, I really enjoyed it and feel like it was quite immersive for how it was done. What makes the story so good is how immersive it became. Everything was taken so seriously, but at the same time, everything made sense. Nobody from the main cast ever felt like they were overacting. Instead, everybody played their part so well. Every character felt like an individual with their own, having their own goals and motivation. Not everything in this game is black and white. Instead, they present you with grey moral options that you yourself as a player have to think about. Characters do logical actions for logical reasons that would occur, not only for them but also the world they inhabit. The game not only has conversations that are brought back, but actions also have that same effect. And those actions can change the course of the story, whereby I can't imagine how much fun this was back in the 2000s. I would have loved to know people back then who played it. I want that experience. I imagine sharing experiences to what occurred throughout, what changed, what stayed the same. I imagine all the little conversations occurring, and how much fun it must have been. The story, in my opinion, is getting an easy 10 out of 10. While I'm sure there are parts about it that should seem questionable, I feel like the game does a really well theory on the subject, and it also respects me as a player of this world. And with that, I would like to go over the story, but technically the review is just done. I might put the story into a separate video, so then this can be somewhat of a two-parter, but not really, so you can separate this and that video. Anyway, the video's done. It's your boy Trashvote. And that's it. Yeah, unless I might not split this into two parts. I don't know, I'll see. Take care and see ya.